Welcome back to our Fertile Tea Time series, where we're sharing the wins, losses, and laughter that come along with trying to get pregnant. If you're new here, my name is Whitney. I'm a fertility dietitian and coach, and I help busy women just like you get out of the Google spiral and get pregnant. Today, I am thrilled to welcome Carly, a former client and new mom who is sharing her experience finding the right IVF clinic and how prioritizing herself and her health helped her go from donor egg conversations to IVF success that had her doctor even asking for tips. This is a trigger warning. We're going to be talking about pregnancy and pregnancy loss. So if you're not in a good place to hear this right now, go ahead and I'll see you in the next one. Let's get started. Welcome, Carly. I am so excited to have you with us today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to be here.
Thank you for having me. So excited.
Well, we're just going to dive in, share a little bit of first, maybe who you are, where you're from, and then we'll just dive into all the nitty gritty.
I'm Carly. I'm from a suburb of Cleveland, Ohio, and that's it. We live on a little farm.
And a 3-month-old?
A 3-month-old, successfully with Whitney's help.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the beginning stages. So when you first started trying, what was that like?
I know more than I ever wanted to know now. At the time, I thought you have sex and then you just get a baby. And we did. We got pregnant our first try. I had a miscarriage and I just didn't know much about it. I just figured I'll try. Great. I got pregnant. Like I'll try again. That was kind of it. And they were really quick to just start throwing Clomid at me. And I was like, great. Sounds good.
Awesome. Let's go.
So I took Clomid for a while. I want to say 5-6 months. And then I think I had a chemical pregnancy somewhere in there. Just still didn't understand a lot about it. I think at that point I started really tracking my cycles and I started seeing that maybe my cycles were a little wonky, anywhere from 30 to 36 days. And just, you don't even know.
So they didn't diagnose you with anything that along that time? Okay.
No, they just were keep trying, whatever. Then I think after the 5 or 6 months on Clomid, they were like, hey, go see a fertility specialist. So we did. And I felt like the doctor was just kind of burying his head in the sand about it. And he was just like, you're fine. Let's put you on, at this point, it was Femera. So I think we did a whole, I want to say almost a year of that. Yeah. Not good. And then it took me being like, it's kind of been a while. Nothing's happening. Should we progress? And they were like, if you want, you can do an IUI. And then the IUI failed. And then at that point is when I went and got a second opinion. And the second opinion, I really drank this Kool-Aid. This doctor was aggressive. And she was like, I see a million things wrong. And here's what we're going to do. And it felt like something tangible. Oh, this is it. She's got it. She's so proactive. And there's that pressure, of course, all your friends around you are then getting pregnant instantly. So I was just like, yeah, okay, thank God, she'll solve it. At this point, I hadn't done anything diet related, supplement related. Let's just preface that.
Can I ask a quick question? So we know your cycles were a bit long. Did you have any other physical things that were going on around that time?
No. Was I a great eater? No. Was I eating ever? Probably not. I was dinner. It's dinner time. It's my one meal a day. Sounds good. And so proactive doctor at the new place, I ran this by her. I was like, I'm pretty active. We have the farm. I tend to just not eat. I just will forget it. And they would say no, has nothing to do with it. Nothing. I was like, great, no changes needed.
I don't have to change anything because no one wants to. No one wants to change.
Yeah, this is magic. This is great. I did ask about supplements and they were like, you can try, not really their speed. I made no changes, did 2 IUIs, those failed, and that had been 3 total IUIs. So I was like, I'm not doing a third. I was very scared of IVF. The thought of IVF kind of made me no, I'll never do that. I'll never do that. So when she said that I had to do it, I was pretty upset because no.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that? No way.
And I forgot to ask, how old were you at this time?
Just turned 30. So they sit you down, you do this big meeting about it. They tell you how many eggs they anticipate you getting. And I will die on this hill. They told me, you are a shoo-in. You're a great scenario. This was told to me that I one and done. Like, not that I was going to have some massive amount, but like enough that would get me a baby. Should they have said that? No. I'm sure they would deny it, but they said it. And I am hyped.
Yeah.
Like, to
Gassed
me,
up, ready to
IVF
go.
means I'm getting a baby. This is it. This is my moment. We do the first cycle, and just for anybody, the third day, the first appointment of your IVF is always the worst. They always are like, ooh, ooh.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that though, because you don't know what you don't even know. I go in, that's the response, and the classic line is, well, you're just not responding how we thought you would. And that's the the soundtrack to my life at this point. You just didn't respond how we thought you would. I get 6 eggs, 3 were mature, 3 made it to day 3, none progressed past. Then they were like, listen, maybe consider an egg donor. Okay. Like,
immediately after one.
Yeah. Like it maybe consider it. So I was like, what? You just told me I was a shoo-in.
You said I was good. What a 180.
Egg donor, and not that there's anything wrong with an egg donor. It just wasn't ever presented, so it definitely caught us off guard. There was a time we were really open. We were like, okay, like this is our life, and this is just what we're gonna have to do. And then they were like, okay, let's try a mini stim, because at this point they're seeing that my egg quality is trash. And they require PGT testing at this place, and that you need your embryos to reach day 5 of growth, which mine didn't. So they said, let's do a mini stim, which is essentially Clomid with some IVF medication. So we do it. We get 2 eggs, which is the goal. None fertilized, none make it. It was a flop. I wouldn't say IVF is hard at all. I would say the mental failure is really hard.
I think like the physical is so small compared to the mental.
The physical,
yeah.
I'll take 900 shots a day. That's fine. It's them like getting in your head, being like, you're just not progressing. You're not responding. You're not, and it feels so personal.
First setting you up that you're going to, though, like that conversation in the beginning totally set the stage for your expectations going into it.
And then it feels kind of like they're like talking shit about you a little bit when they're saying like your body's not responding or you're not. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm great.
I followed the plan. I did exactly what you said. I took all the shots on time. I stayed on top of all of my appointments and medications and everything.
It feels personal, even though it's just maybe not. I don't know. So flop. And then just know I'm unwell at this point. I'm unwell. Like I am not good mentally. No way. I didn't want to do another round. I was like pleading with my husband, like, I can't do this one more time. But they're kind of like, well, we do see success with the 3rd round. Like, if you just do it, we have seen success. And he's like, come on, they've seen success. And so I do it. And this is right before Thanksgiving. I'm having a little more success. I think I had like 4 measurable follicles. And the day before my egg retrieval, they called me and said their anesthesiologist quit. Would I like to do my egg retrieval awake? And I was like, what do you mean? And they were like, well, we'll give you, I forget what the medication was. Nothing even like a painkiller.
Lidocaine, like just skin numbing.
Yeah, I think it was like Ambien or something. Something so ridiculous. Because I remember saying, like, don't you give that to people on airplanes to calm down?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, it's gonna hurt, but I'll never forget it. I have done 2. And the women are extremely motivated. And I was like, oh, because I'm not motivated. Okay. I'm only dying on this
gaslighting. The gaslighting. This entire process from beginning to end, like you're showing up and saying how amazing you're going to do. And then when you don't show up the way they think you're going to, it's your fault. Your eggs are bad. And then you're just not motivated enough.
I'm not motivated because I don't want to do this awake.
It gives me so much.
I'm being awake. Don't ever do it awake. There's a reason they put you under. So I said no, and they were just like, you sure? Like, we don't know when we're going to get another anesthesiologist, and we don't know, and we don't know. And I was like, I don't care. No, I'm not doing that awake. We were sure at this point we were using an egg donor. It was we were sure of it. We had one in mind and we were moving forward. So the only reason I got a third opinion was kind of for that reason, like which place do I want to do an egg donor at? So get a third opinion at this point. And this doctor is an angel. And she was kind of like, what do you mean an egg donor? Why would you need an egg donor? Who's telling you need an egg donor? And I was like, XYZ doctor. And she was like, I'm sorry, I just think you've had a really unfair shot at IVF. And she was like, I would love the opportunity to take a stab at it because I don't think you need an egg donor. And he was the first person to say, if you're open to it, let's try some supplements. Let's try acupuncture. How are you sleeping? Like, what are you eating?
And amazing. Just like the most simple questions, but never were asked before.
In 2 years' time, really hadn't been asked. And so I started acupuncture at this point, and we did an IVF cycle in June. I think I got 13 eggs, a good amount, we'll say. Yeah. And then 3 made it to day 3. They put 2 in to transfer on a 3-day transfer. 1 was successful. We lost him at 5 months. My water broke. They couldn't save him. That had nothing to do with the fertility end. It was just a freak thing. Like, they just don't know why it happened. And he was just under the cutoff of being able to be saved. And so that's when I reached out to you. Really quick after that, I was thinking about it right before this. It was end of October.
It was like a month after. Like, it was very quickly.
Very quick. Mm-hmm. I don't even have TikTok. And so for some reason I was on TikTok and I don't know, you just popped up and
somehow.
Yeah. So I remember emailing you.
Yeah.
I started working with you. And you really were tweaking my diet to the point my friends to this day are like, remember how strict your diet was that Whitney had to tell you to eat potato chips? And
or like, I remember the potato chips. We had the fun food conversation.
Yeah,
I was like, well, what do we want to eat? You're like, I kind of like potato chips.
You're like,
let's start there.
Potato chips. I think a big thing was keeping kind of the baby weight on was a big one. And then you put me on more supplements than I ever will know what to do with. And then you put my husband on a ton of supplements as well. And so he's like fist pumping in the background. Yeah. So that was what, the 4 months we started March?
Yeah, we started in like late November. And I know you were trying to do a cycle in January. And
yeah, they were like, we could do it in January. And you were like, no.
We should. Yeah. For those of you who are unfamiliar with my work, I always recommend 90 days at least to give your body time to absorb the nutrients, recover, calm down, kind of come back down to baseline before we jump into any big interventions, just to give yourself a beat. Like you said, like just giving yourself a break.
Oh, and thank God I did that because I remember the desperation of just like, I need to be pregnant again. Like I just had this huge loss and so badly. I just, wanted that again because I did have success and I was so close to the finish line and where you were like, let's not, just what's 1 more month or like, what's 2 more months. So we went that route, but also a good thing I did because I feel I went into that IVF cycle a freaking beast. I was an animal. Okay. I had never been so prepared in my life physically. So we also focused though, what's that test I had to do?
The Dutch hormone test. We did. I should have said that. I should have mentioned that, but we did a Dutch hormone test. Stands for dried urine test for comprehensive hormones. And we got a peek at your estrogen metabolism, your adrenals, your organic acids, cortisol, all of that. And it was very, very helpful. Helps us kind of pinpoint where your body needs more support.
Yep. So my adrenals really needed work. And I just really zeroed in on it with you. I was open to it. I would have done anything. I would have chanted around a fire. So
Sandra Bullock and Betty White, just you guys all hanging around.
Anything you told me to do, I would do it. So we did IVF in March. I stunted on everyone in this hospital to the point that this doctor came and found me after my retrieval. And she was like, what did you do? What did you do? It wasn't so much that I got this massive number of eggs. I got the same amount of eggs. I think it was 12 or 13, but 9 fertilized. 9 made it to day 3. And so when they still were going to do a day 3 transfer because we weren't sure, We just weren't
Previously, you
sure.
hadn't had any survive to the day 5, and so
No.
they wanted to do a transfer early. And
Yes.
I want to just say that for anybody who's like, why did you do a fresh transfer versus frozen? That was why. Previous cycles had indicated that her embryos arrested early, and so they were trying to utilize them before that happened. Mm-hmm.
So we just weren't sure. They put one in day 3, and then 4 more made it to day 5. Now 1 is a successful human child. There's still 3 frozen. We can show our successful human.
Nugget.
We
Oh, babe. Oh my God. This just makes my whole day. This is wonderful.
Do you remember her in the womb?
Hi, Jack.
Do you remember? He's a potato. Suddenly I've really ripped arms. So yeah, so he was our best embryo. The rest are frozen. I think our regret is that I wish we would have found you sooner, because I don't think, I say this to you all the time, I would have started with you. And that's my advice to most of my girlfriends or friends of friends who always are like, what did you do? I would have started with you first. I think it's probably the foundation that's needed. If I could go back, I would start with you. I really believe I can get pregnant on my own. I believe it.
We've talked about this. I don't see why not. I'm actually excited to see you're very early postpartum, but the future holds, because there were actually, can you talk a little bit about the physical changes that you experienced kind of throughout this process, not the pregnancy?
It took about 8 weeks to get my cycle back. Yeah. And so that first cycle, we almost were like, it's not, don't have too much expectations about it. But the second cycle, we were surprised how quickly it responded. And then by the third, I think the third is when you were like, oh my God, I think you could get pregnant on your own.
Like, are you trying at all? Like, are you interested in getting pregnant naturally? Because if you're gonna.
So I really believe if I can get myself back to that eating point, that healthy weight again, and things like that, then the rest may fall into place. If not, I've got a whole batch of embryos that are like animals in there, because they came from my body at the best time ever. I just remember also the adrenals made a huge difference for me. That was something I never would have known about. And just people in their everyday life, when they're talking about their fatigue or certain like brain fog, I'm always like, you should work on your adrenals.
Check out those. They're doing
adrenals. And that made such a big difference in my energy level. Obviously, my body responded very well to eating food instead of going all day.
No.
Shocking.
Shocker.
And then responded well to the more flexible approach instead of being super strict and regimented about everything I was eating. I just think energy level, and then I think my cycle followed.
Yeah.
My IVF then followed, everything, all the dominoes fell into place, where what a twist. Before that, nothing was working well.
Well, and I have to say, from an outside perspective, watching you go through that next cycle, the cycle that we went through together, that your peace and your confidence was unshakable. Like, not that you have to go into IVF, like absolutely certain, but
you do.
Your body had gotten to a point, you were so confident about it. You did not go in with any doubts. Well, I'm sure there were doubts, but like
also, I think because the physical, I was able to then work on things better. I worked on that a lot with you. I remember crying to you a million times about it, like the hardships and things like that. And so I do think you also need a good crew.
Yeah, a good crew. You
need the positive people who are
pile of people.
Because, listen, if they were telling me to do acupuncture and just take some supplements and like work on your diet a little bit, and we did have success with even that little tweak, I think between him taking the supplements, me taking the supplements, both of us changing our diets, I mean, the diet change in him as well. Like, let's not discount the men. I think a lot of us getting frozen embryos was because of what you put him on. And he says that to this day. Like, he's like, I mean, I think I even brought a lot to the table that time around, because
he brought his best, what did they say in bodybuilding? He brought his best package.
We really did kind of have a joint situation, and you do not write off the men. You're very you want to see it all and tweak everybody. And so we worked on him pretty hard as well. And I never thought I would have frozen embryos. There's a lot of days I never thought I would have a baby. My husband credits you all the time. He always is like, Whitney, just hire Whitney.
I'm just going to
get pregnant.
Voice video call you guys every morning. Just gas me up.
1-800-CALL Whitney.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing with us. Yeah. I loved working with you. I loved doing this interview. If you ever need me in the future, you know where I will be.
I know. I know where to find you. Well, thank you. Thanks for everything. Thanks for helping us get our little boy.
Of course. It's my pleasure. If Carly's story has you inspired and you'd like to learn more about the specific steps that she took to transform her fertility for IVF success, I invite you to check out the Fertility Reset Masterclass. I linked it below, and this is where I'm going to be diving deep into my proven framework that's helped hundreds of women grow their own families. See you in the next one.